After importing ligands into the Develop Pharmacophore model workflow and ensuring that they're appropriately prepared, we're ready to move on to the Create Site step. Just to be absolutely clear, appropriately prepared means that we have an adequate conformational ensemble for each ligand in the correct protonation state or states. In the Create Site step, we'll actually go ahead and identify individual pharmacophore features on all the conformations of all of our ligands. The sites that we identify on our ligands are going to be contingent upon how we define different features like H-bond donors, acceptors, and so on. Fortunately, you can use Phase out of the box without worrying about defining the features on your own, since the Phase workflow includes a very good default set of feature definitions. In fact, these default features are visible in the workspace right now as we step through the various ligands in the table here. If you're new to pharmacophore modeling, one of the first things that you'll probably notice is the relative abundance of sites on all of these ligands. In later steps of the workflow, as we attempt to find a pharmacophore that describes active ligands, we'll be choosing some subset of features that's common to our active compounds. Right now, though, as we step through this table, we're looking at a complete set of pharmacophore features for a single conformer of each ligand. Keep in mind that for any given ligand, all the different conformations of that ligand are going to have the same features on the same functional groups, but the pharmacophore features on different conformers of the same ligand will be oriented differently with respect to one another. Let's take a quick moment to review some of the features that we see in the ligand table. For each ligand, we have feature counts for each feature type: A, D, H, N, P, and R. These stand for H-bond acceptors, H-bond donors, hydrophobic groups, negative ionizable features, positive ionizable features, and aromatic rings. There are also columns for X, Y, and Z. In addition to allowing users to modify the definitions of the 5 traditional features, Phase also allows you to define custom features. Just for the sake of example, suppose you want to create a pharmacophore that matched urea groups. Rather than trying to enforce the proper arrangement of all the different donor and acceptor features that a urea group would match, you could set the X feature to match the SMARTS pattern for urea. Actually, describing the SMARTS syntax is a bit beyond the scope of this video, but there are a number of good tutorials available online. In and below the table, you can see where the Create Site step allows you to do some of the same things that the Prepare Ligand step allowed you to do. Specifically, you can adjust activities, the active set thresholds, and manually identify active and inactive compounds. Below the table, you see a toggle that allows you to display or hide feature sites in the workspace, and you can manually select which features you'd like to see just by highlighting the desired features. Right now, we're looking at all of the features that show up on this ligand. Every feature is highlighted here, but we could look at just hydrophobic sites, for example, if we wish to. This can be a helpful way of simplifying the workspace contents if you're editing just a single feature definition. If we're happy with the default feature definitions, we can go ahead and click the Create Sites button. This will run a calculation that assigns pharmacophore sites to all conformations of all ligands. The default feature definitions will work fine for this example, so I'll click on the Create Sites button and launch the job using the default options on my local machine. While this calculation runs, I want to briefly mention how you can actually edit the various patterns that define all of the different pharmacophore features. To do so, you'd get started by clicking here on this Edit Features button at the top of the interface, which will open up a special feature editing window. Feature editing is generally useful. For example, you might wish to edit feature definitions when creating a Phase database, so we'll take a more in-depth look at the Edit Features interface in a separate video. The Create Sites calculation is relatively quick, and you can see that once the results are incorporated back into Maestro, we're ready to move on to the next step, Find Common Pharmacophores, by clicking the appropriate button in the workflow.